So the BMW 2 Series, or the BMW 3 Series, the 4 Series, specifically the BMW M235i, 335i, and 435i. Today I am going to be discussing the advantages of owning a BMW 2 Series, particularly, like I stated earlier, the BMW M235i over its counterparts, such as the 335i and the 435i. So without further ado, let's get straight into it. Number one is going to have to be the chassis and the lightweight benefits of owning a 2 Series. Now, the 2 Series comes in right around like 3,400-ish pounds, 3,500, somewhere around that, depending on how much gas is in the car, how much you weigh. But curb weight is in the mid to high 3,400 pound range, which for a 2 Series BMW is still fairly heavy, not gonna lie. However, this is still a good 200 pounds or so lighter than a BMW 335i or 435i equivalent. And because of that, this car definitely feels a little bit punchier in the mid-range and top end. And in addition to that, it handles a lot better. The 2 Series has smaller proportions, it has a wider wheelbase than the 1 Series that it replaces, and really it feels pretty damn nimble on its feet. Now, this isn't a perfect car. Out the box, stock, it handles pretty well, but even stock, there's still a fair amount of body roll with the M Sport suspension. It still could definitely use, you know, coilovers or some lowering springs, some nice tires to really sort of dial in the handling. But once all that is done, these cars drive like they are on rails. They're absolutely fantastic. And yes, the 3 Series and 4 Series still handle pretty damn well. Out the box, they're okay, but when you do some upgrades, some aftermarket upgrades, they definitely feel pretty solid, but they don't compare to the 2 Series. The 2 Series definitely handles like it's a go-kart. It just feels very, very nimble, especially contrary to what its weight would actually suggest. Now, the second factor that I have to talk about is the power. Now, of course, there's always tuning, there's always going to be, you know, aftermarket upgrades, intakes, turbo upgrades, intercooler downpipe, boot mode, all those things, but out the box, the M235i makes around 320 horsepower and 332 pound-feet of torque stock, compared to the 335 and 435i's 300 horsepower and 300 torque. Now, it's actually been shown that the M235i's are underrated from the factory because a lot of them actually dyno at around like 305 to 310 at the wheels on a stock powertrain. Now, when you account for roughly 15% drivetrain loss, this equates to more around 350 horsepower or so at the crank. So they are a good deal more powerful from the factory than the equivalent counterparts. They're very, very fun, and pair that with the, you know, smaller chassis and the lighter curb weight that these cars have, they are rockets. And I mean, it's been proven time after time, you know, 0 to 60 on these with the right tires and the right launch, you can get about 4.5 seconds, possibly even lower on a stock M235i. It's doable. Obviously the conditions and the factors have to be right, but regardless, it is really, really quick out the box. And once you add a tune and a lot of aftermarket upgraded goodies, you really can't go wrong with one of these cars. Now, as you guys might be able to tell, I'm actually driving this car through the canyons. I just took the car up to the hills, some of my favorite canyon roads, and oh man, it's just such a joy to drive. I will be uploading more point of view canyon drive footage with some friends that I'll be hitting some back roads on pretty soon, so I'm looking forward to that. So stay tuned for that. And if you are enjoying this video so far, be sure to give the video a thumbs up and subscribe if you are new to the channel. I make a lot of content on this car specifically, BMWs, and just a lot of cool sports cars in general. So lots of good content on this channel. Now, going into my third reason for the M235i over the 3 and 435i is going to have to be the steering feel. Now, with the BMW F Series, one of the biggest complaints about these cars is that they just absolutely lacked any sort of steering feel. The steering weight was completely garbage, and the fact that BMW switched from a hydraulic power steering rack to an electronic power steering rack was just a bad move. The enthusiasts hated it. Well, in this car, I can tell you the steering feels much, much better than in a 3 or 435i. The steering definitely has a lot more weight to it, which is something that is really, really nice and lacking in a lot of the F-Series cars. You definitely feel like you have a good sense of precision and control over the car when you're driving at high speeds. And I must also say, with the EDC suspension that this car has from the factory, you do get some good steering feel through the wheel. Now, like I said before, it's not as good as the E92 generation with the pure hydraulic steering rack. That is pretty tough to beat, but for the most part, BMW dialed in the electronic steering on this car. Yes, it's still not perfect, but it is much better than in a 3 or 435i. You don't get the same steering weight and steering feel that comes through the wheel that you would get in something like an M235i. The steering has been specifically tuned on this car for performance driving, which is really, really nice. Going into the next reason that I would suggest owning an M235i, in addition to the fact that it is a great daily driver, you still get plenty of really good trunk space. Rear seat room isn't too bad compared to a 3 or 4 series. That is going to have to be due to the fact that you do get some pretty cool goodies. You do get the M Sport brakes as standard, 4 piston calipers up front, 2 piston calipers in the rear. You do get the EDC suspension as standard, which feels pretty nice over the roads. And when you throw it in Sport Plus, it definitely gets a little bit stiffer than the stock suspension in comfort mode, and you can definitely notice that. The ZF8 transmission, I don't have any hard data on this, but I swear it shifts harder than in like a 335 or a 435. The M235i's gearbox is like quick. Like, when you hit the paddle, when you're really gassing the car, like the gearbox, when it shifts into the next gear, it really like punches you in the seat, almost like a dual clutch transmission. It really has quite a bit of drama to it, which makes it a ton of fun when you're driving. And all those factors in combination with its sporty, you know, bulldog sort of stance and its good looks, it has good proportions. I definitely think this car, in terms of a driving and performance standpoint, is superior than its counterparts in the 3 and 435i. So when you factor in the fact that these cars are pretty powerful out the box, they have great steering, great gearbox, great suspension and chassis handling, they have pretty good stopping power, it's just a really superior overall driving package. You cannot go wrong with a BMW M235i or M240i for that matter, since that is the newest car in the 2 Series performance lineup. With all that being said, you guys, as I stated earlier, please be sure to give this video a thumbs up, as well as subscribe to the channel if you are new here. And I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I got plenty of more content coming on the channel for you guys, so stay tuned. With all that being said, I'll catch you all in the next one.